There comes a time when kindness becomes a cage, and the only way to breathe again is to break free. We are taught from the beginning that kindness is a virtue, that to be kind is to be good, to be patient is to be strong. But what happens when your kindness becomes the very rope that binds you to your suffering? What happens when your goodness is not celebrated but exploited? When your gentle spirit becomes a playground for cruelty? There is a kindness that heals and a kindness that hides harm. We don't talk enough about the second kind. You see, narcissists are not drawn to your kindness because they admire it. They are drawn to it because they can use it. They recognize in your softness not strength, but opportunity. They see someone who will bend instead of break, someone who will explain instead of accuse, someone who will excuse instead of leave. And so they test the waters, just a little lie, a little jab, a little blame shifting. And when you respond with grace, they smile because they know they've found someone who will keep pouring from an empty cup. Your kindness becomes the leash around your neck. You try to make peace where there is no war, just control. You smooth things over, swallow your feelings, lower your voice, shrink your needs. You tell yourself you're just being mature, that you're doing the right thing, that if you stay calm, if you love harder, if you show them the depth of your patience, they will change. But they don't. They never do. Instead, they grow bolder, the insults come easier, the guilt trips get heavier, the gaslighting cuts deeper, and you keep responding with kindness because you're afraid of what happens if you stop. You're afraid of being called selfish, cold, dramatic. You're afraid that if you draw the line, you'll lose them. And maybe, just maybe, you're afraid that you'll find out they never really cared at all. So you keep giving. But let me say this to you plain, kindness is not meant to be a sacrifice of your soul. You were not put on this earth to teach someone how to treat you. That is not your burden. That is not your calling. Love does not require you to set yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. If they cannot feel the weight of your silence, they do not deserve the sound of your forgiveness. False kindness is not noble. It is dangerous. It makes you complicit in your own suffering. It teaches the other person that they can hurt you and still have access to you, that they can disrespect you and still be embraced, that they can betray you and still be believed. And here's the truth. Narcissists are not confused. They are not lost souls who need rescuing. They are not broken hearts waiting to be healed by your patience. They are fully aware of the pain they cause. They do not lack empathy. They suppress it. Because empathy gets in the way of control, so they mock your tears, twist your words, and weaponize your compassion. And still you stay because you're kind. But baby, kindness without discernment is not a gift, it's a cage. You think you're choosing peace, but really you're avoiding confrontation. You think you're keeping the relationship alive, but you're the only one breathing life into it. They are not meeting you halfway. They are sitting back and watching you do all the work, all the apologizing, all the forgiving. And it is not your job to be anyone's emotional rehab center. You deserve a love that doesn't hurt, a space that doesn't silence you, a partner who meets your kindness with gratitude, not greed. Your tenderness is sacred, not something to be twisted into submission. And if you're waiting for them to wake up one day and realize your worth, let me gently tell you, they already see your worth. They just never intended to honor it. Stop confusing endurance with love. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to walk away, not because you've run out of kindness, but because you finally remembered to show some to yourself. The trap of false kindness is real, and many don't see it until they've spent years caught in it. But you have the power to break the cycle, not with rage, not with revenge, but with a quiet, resolute refusal to keep giving yourself to someone who only knows how to take. You are not heartless for choosing yourself. You are not cruel for ending a cycle of cruelty. You are simply done being the only one who shows up with love in a place that only feeds on it. And that, my dear, is the bravest kind of kindness there is. They do not break you all at once. No, that would be too obvious, too fast. Instead, narcissists drain your spirit drop by drop, word by word, glance by calculating glance. You don't even realize it's happening at first. In the beginning, they charm you, praise you, make you feel like the sun rose just to light your smile. They mirror your dreams, your values, your rhythms. They study your soul like a thief studying a map, looking for the easiest way in. And when they find it, that soft, beautiful opening, they begin. It doesn't start with shouting or rage. It starts with small things, a laugh at your expense, a comment wrapped in sugar but lined with venom. You're too sensitive. You're lucky I put up with that. No one else would love you like I do. It starts with dismissing your joys, questioning your instincts, rewriting your memories. You'll bring something up, something that hurt, and they'll twist it around until you're the one apologizing, until you're not even sure what's real anymore. They make you doubt yourself so subtly that you begin to hand over your power willingly. You question your worth. You hesitate before you speak. You look in the mirror and see someone smaller than you used to be. They haven't laid a hand on you, but you feel bruised. You carry invisible wounds that bleed in silence. Your spirit, once so vibrant and alive, begins to dim under the weight of their presence. Narcissists drain your energy because they do not connect. They consume. They don't love you for who you are. They love the way you love them. They thrive on admiration, on control, on the emotional oxygen you give freely. And the moment you stop pouring, they panic, they guilt, manipulate, provoke. They push you until you crack. And when you finally do, they say, "See, you're the problem." And once again, you doubt yourself. This is how they wear you down. They cycle through hot and cold, love and neglect. One day they're adoring you. The next, they're distant, irritated, cruel. They keep you walking on eggshells, always trying to figure out how to get back to that fleeting moment of warmth. But that warmth was a performance, a bait. And now you're hooked, doing everything you can to win back the version of them that never truly existed. In this dance, you lose yourself. You stop talking to friends. You make excuses for them. You take responsibility for their moods, their failures, their rage. You become their emotional caretaker, their therapist, their punching bag. And still, it's never enough. You start to believe you're the broken one. You forget the sound of your own laughter. You begin to live in reaction to them, in fear, in guilt, in confusion. They convince you that no one else would tolerate you, that no one else would understand you. And if you try to leave, they switch tactics. Suddenly they're sorry. Suddenly they remember how to be kind. They promise change. They cry. They beg. And you, tired and hopeful, give them another chance. Because you remember who they were. You remember the person you thought you met. But that person was never real. That was the mask. And each time you forgive, each time you return, the mask slips further and the cruelty grows deeper. What they are doing is not love. It is possession. It is a slow erasure of your soul under the illusion of connection. Your spirit begins to hollow out, not from one grand blow, but from the steady, silent chiseling of your confidence. You stop dreaming. You stop believing in your own voice. You become a version of yourself built for survival, quiet, cautious, always watching for the next storm. And still, the world outside may not see it. Narcissists know how to shine in public. They know how to smile for the crowd and poison in private. They leave you feeling unseen, unheard, unimportant, and because the wounds are invisible, you start to wonder if you're imagining it all. But you are not imagining this. You are being drained by someone who cannot nourish you, only feed off you. Your laughter, your empathy, your hope. They take it all and give nothing in return. They need you broken so they can feel whole. They need you small so they can feel big. But my dear, you were not made to shrink. You were not made to be a reservoir for someone else's emptiness. You were made to shine, to speak, to rise. And though they may try to take every last piece of you, they cannot touch the part of you that chooses to rise again. They cannot take what you finally decide to reclaim. They told you to be the bigger person, told you to turn the other cheek, take the high road, walk away with grace. They told you that rising above would make you noble, that silence was maturity, that holding your tongue was strength, and you believed them. You held your breath when you wanted to scream. You forgave before the apology ever came. You bent until your spine forgot what it meant to stand straight. And still, they said you were doing the right thing. But what they didn't tell you is this: being the bigger person in the presence of a narcissist doesn't make you wise. It makes you a target. Because narcissists don't see your restraint as strength. They see it as submission. They see your silence not as peace, but as permission. Every time you bite your tongue, they feel more powerful. Every time you take the blame just to end the fight, they grow more certain that they own your voice. And each time you forgive without accountability, they learn they can hurt you without consequence. You call it being mature. They call it winning. You think you're saving the relationship, but really you're slowly vanishing inside of it. You become the one who always fixes things, the one who apologizes first, even when you're not wrong, the one who explains, soothes, and absorbs. You get praised for how calm you are, how reasonable, how forgiving, but you're not calm. You're just tired. You're not forgiving. You're just afraid of what happens if you stop playing your role. And that role, the bigger person, it sounds righteous. It sounds noble. But let's speak the truth. Too often, it's just another word for silent suffering. Because sometimes the high road is a lonely road. Sometimes being the bigger person means walking away from the truth in your chest. It means holding back your fire to protect the comfort of someone who keeps burning you. And while everyone else praises your composure, no one notices that your heart is cracking under the weight of everything you're refusing to say. Being the bigger person has become a lie we tell the wounded so they don't dare to fight back. A lie we whisper to the mistreated so they don't disturb the peace of the person who caused the harm. It's a silencing spell wrapped in moral language designed to keep you in your place. Let's be clear. There is nothing weak about walking away from a fight that isn't worth it. But there is something tragic about walking away from your own truth just to protect someone else's ego. There is something deeply wrong about calling yourself strong for swallowing pain that should have never been yours to begin with. You are not required to carry grace like a burden. You don't owe serenity to someone who never offered you safety. You don't owe silence to someone who disrespects your voice. And you are not obligated to always be the one who de-escalates, softens, accommodates. That kind of one-sided strength isn't balance, it's bondage. Because the truth is, sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is not take the high road. Sometimes courage sounds like, I won't tolerate this. Sometimes it sounds like, you don't get to speak to me that way. Sometimes being the bigger person means getting honest, getting loud, getting gone. It means honoring your anger, not unleashing it blindly, but listening to what it's trying to tell you. Because anger, in its pure form, is a signal. It's your soul telling you a line has been crossed, a boundary has been violated. And if all you do is bury it beneath politeness, you're not rising above, you're sinking below. There is a way to be kind without being a doormat, a way to be compassionate without being complicit. You can choose dignity without choosing silence, and you can stand your ground without becoming cruel. The lie of being the bigger person is that you must always take the blow without ever swinging back, that you must always choose peace, even when it costs you your power. But real strength is not about how much you can endure. It's about how clearly you know when to stop enduring. And when you stop, the world may call you selfish. They may say you've changed. But hear this now. What they call selfish, you will one day call sacred. What they call dramatic, you will learn to name as healing. What they see as an ending, you will know is your beginning. You were never meant to shrink to keep the peace. You were meant to rise, to roar, to say no more, not with hate in your heart, but with truth in your spine. And that, my dear, is being the real bigger person. There is a cost to staying quiet, and it is far greater than anyone tells you. They say, don't make waves. They say, keep the peace. They say, it's not worth the fight. And so you swallow your voice. You fold your truth into silence like a delicate letter never mailed. You convince yourself that biting your tongue is a form of strength, that patience is the answer, that maybe this time they didn't mean it. Maybe this time they'll change. But every time you stay quiet, a little part of you vanishes. It starts small. You ignore a rude comment. You let a lie slip by. You justify a cold shoulder, an eye roll, a backhanded compliment. You tell yourself they had a bad day, that you're overreacting, that it's not worth the confrontation. And so you brush it off. You keep the mood light. You smile when your spirit aches. You pretend not to notice the disrespect sitting in the room like smoke. But silence is not safety. It is erosion. Each time you choose not to speak, your truth sinks deeper into the pit of your belly, heavy and unanswered. You carry it through your day, and it echoes in your sleep. And what started as peacekeeping becomes self-abandonment. You begin to forget the sound of your own boundaries. You lose track of what you're worth. You tell yourself you're avoiding conflict, but what you're really avoiding is clarity. Because to speak your truth is to draw a line. It is to say, this is not okay. And once that line is drawn, something must shift. Either they respect you or they don't. Either they grow or they go. But if you don't speak, nothing changes. And the longer you stay quiet, the louder the damage becomes. You become the one who takes the blame, the one who bends to avoid tension, the one who over-explains, over-apologizes, over-functions. You smile so no one sees the fire behind your eyes. You laugh so no one hears the crack in your voice. You become a master at hiding your pain in plain sight. But your body knows, your spirit knows. Your silence writes itself into your posture, your breath, your joy. You may look fine on the outside, but inside you are shrinking. Every time you silence your truth, you teach yourself that your voice is not valuable, that your feelings are negotiable, that your needs are too much. And the longer you live like this, the more you disappear. Narcissists thrive in your silence. It gives them space to twist the story, to shift the blame, to keep their hands clean while you carry the guilt. When you speak up, they call you dramatic. When you cry, they say you're manipulative. When you ask for respect, they accuse you of being controlling. So you learn to stay quiet. You learn to avoid the storm, but the storm doesn't leave, it just lives inside you. You stop expressing yourself, and they stop seeing you. Not that they ever truly did, but now even the illusion fades. You become a background character in your own life. You walk on eggshells so long you forget how to walk at all. Your confidence erodes, your boundaries blur, your spirit fades. The cost of staying quiet is not just your voice, it is your peace, your power, your identity. You begin to question whether you even have a right to feel what you feel. You begin to believe that survival means staying small, that love requires your silence, that harmony means swallowing harm. But no relationship is worth that kind of loss. To love someone does not mean to go mute in their presence. To keep the peace should not mean destroying your own. Speaking up is not cruelty, it's clarity. It is the foundation of self-respect. And if your truth causes discomfort, let it. If it disrupts the illusion, let it. If it draws a line that changes everything, let it. Because the longer you stay quiet, the harder it becomes to find your voice again. Silence becomes a habit, then a home, then a prison. And by the time you're ready to speak, you might not remember how, but you can still reclaim it. You can say, that hurt me. You can say, that wasn't okay. You can say, this is who I am and I won't be erased. Your voice may tremble, but it is still power. You may cry when you speak, but those tears are sacred. You are not too much. You are not overreacting. You are not wrong for wanting to be heard. Let the cost of your silence end with this moment, because your truth is not a burden. It is your birthright. And you do not have to trade your voice to keep someone else comfortable. You do not have to stay quiet to stay worthy. You were born with the right to speak, to feel, to take up space. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. There is a quiet kind of power that lives in the word no. It's not loud, it doesn't shout or demand attention, but it stands firm, solid, unmoving. And for many people, especially those who have lived under the shadow of manipulation, guilt, or fear, it is the most radical word they can speak. For so long, you were taught that no was impolite, that it was selfish, that it made you difficult, unkind, cold. You learned to equate love with agreement, to equate connection with sacrifice. So you said yes when you didn't want to. You said sure when your spirit was screaming no. You smiled while your soul tightened into a knot. You let others cross lines that should have never been drawn in chalk to begin with. And every time you said yes to something that violated your peace, you said no to yourself. They ask too much, too often, too soon, and you give it, not because you want to, not because it feels right, but because it feels easier. Because saying yes avoids conflict, because it keeps the room calm, because it makes you the good one, the cooperative one, the reliable one. You become the person who's always there, always bending, always available, and deep down always resentful. Because the more you say yes to things that harm you, the more you betray yourself. The more you teach people that your time, your energy, your body, your heart, it's all up for negotiation. And once they learn that lesson, they don't forget it. They will keep asking, keep taking, keep pushing, not because they're confused, but because they know they can. But something shifts when you start to say no, not with bitterness, not with apology, just with clarity, with honesty, with certainty. When you say, no, I won't do that, or no, that doesn't work for me, or simply no, with no explanation at all, you begin to reclaim the space that was always yours. You begin to draw boundaries, not as punishment, but as protection. And at first it feels terrifying. Your voice might shake, your hands might tremble. You might spend the next hour replaying the moment in your head, wondering if you were too harsh. But in time, you begin to feel the strength under the discomfort. You begin to realize that no is not rejection, it's alignment. It's you choosing yourself over the comfort of others. It's you stepping out of the role of people pleaser and stepping into your role as your own advocate. Saying no is a declaration. It says, I know my worth. It says, I will not trade peace for approval. It says, I am not afraid to lose people who only love me when I am convenient. And when you speak this word from your core, from your truth, it carries a vibration that changes things. Some people will resist it. Some will try to guilt you, shame you, call you names. They will say you've changed. They will say you're difficult now. Let them. Because the people who are truly for you will not be afraid of your boundaries. They will not be offended by your needs. They will not require your silence or your exhaustion to stay connected to you. The people who are worthy of your yes will never demand it at the cost of your no. There is power in this word because it teaches you that you are not responsible for everyone's happiness, that you do not have to be liked by all to be worthy, that you can disappoint others and still be a good person, that you can love someone and still say no to them, that you can be kind without being compliant, that you can be generous without being exploited. It's not your job to keep the peace by losing your power. It's not your duty to absorb discomfort so others never have to feel it. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to say no to things that drain you. You are allowed to walk away from relationships, jobs, and situations that ask you to be less than who you are. Saying no is not a wall, it's a door that opens to the life that aligns with your soul, a door that invites in what you truly desire, not what you settle for, a door that closes gently but firmly on the people who only came to take. You don't need permission to use this word. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to earn it. It is yours by right. And the more you use it, the more natural it becomes. The more you say no to what dishonors you, the more you say yes to what empowers you, to peace, to clarity, to freedom, to you. Walking away is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is not the collapse of who you are. Walking away, when done with dignity, is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect a person can commit to. It is the moment you decide that your peace is more important than their validation, that your truth matters more than their approval, that your life deserves more than a love built on conditions, silence, or survival. You don't walk away because you gave up too soon. You walk away because you finally realized how long you held on, hoping, trying, shrinking. You walk away not with hate in your heart, but with clarity in your chest. You gave the conversations, the second chances, the long nights of doubt. You bent and twisted yourself to fit into a space that kept shrinking around you. And still, it was not enough. Not because of your lack, but because they never came to meet you with the same depth, the same truth, the same respect. When you walk away with dignity, you do not slam the door. You do not scream to be heard. You do not try to prove the damage or collect sympathy. You do not carry bitterness like armor. Instead, you rise with your head high, not because you feel no pain, but because you know the pain is not your identity. You carry your hurt with grace, but you no longer use it as a reason to stay. You accept what was, you acknowledge what will never be, and you let go of the fantasy that it might somehow become what you needed it to be all along. It takes strength to stay, but it takes soul to leave well. To walk away with dignity means that you recognize your worth, even if they never did. It means you stop begging people to see you, to hear you, to love you in ways they're not willing or able to. It means you stop performing for affection, stop pleading for peace, stop negotiating your value for the chance to stay close to someone who only showed up when it was easy or convenient. It's not just about leaving a person. Sometimes it's leaving a pattern, a cycle, a version of yourself you no longer recognize. It's walking away from the part of you that learned to settle, the part that made excuses for disrespect, the part that called chaos love because it was all you knew. And when you leave, you take that version of yourself gently by the hand and you say, "We are done with this. We are going home, home, to yourself, to your wholeness, to the inner knowing that says, this is not where we thrive." Walking away with dignity means not looking back to see if they've noticed. It means not shrinking just because they don't chase you. It means not dimming your power for one more ounce of their attention. You don't walk away to make a scene. You walk away because the scene no longer deserves your presence. You stop explaining, stop defending, stop waiting. You release the need to be understood by someone who was committed to misunderstanding you. You let go of the illusion that closure must come from them. You learn to give that closure to yourself, one truth at a time. I deserve better. I gave all I could. I'm allowed to leave. I am still whole. It hurts. Of course it hurts. But hurt is not a reason to stay stuck. Pain is not a sign you made the wrong decision. It is only the echo of your healing, loud, honest, and necessary. And in time, it quiets, it softens, it teaches, it reveals the strength you didn't know you had when you were busy surviving the storm. And as you walk away, you learn to hold your silence not as punishment, but as protection. You learn that revenge is not worth your energy. That explanation is not owed. That peace is a language you no longer have to translate. You walk forward, not because the road is easy, but because it is finally yours. You stop defining yourself by what didn't work. You stop measuring your value through someone else's blindness. You stop waiting for them to name you lovable because you know now dignity is not something someone else gives you. It is something you decide to claim. So you walk, even if your legs are trembling, even if your voice shakes when you say goodbye. You walk not because you don't care, but because you care enough about yourself to stop bleeding for a bond that only wounded you. You walk because staying silent became too loud. You walk because you are done begging for breadcrumbs when you were born to feast. You walk with every piece of your heart that still beats strong despite the breaking. And you walk with dignity, not because they let you go, but because you finally let yourself leave. You are not a fixer. You are not a doormat. You are not a well that never runs dry. You are a whole divine being, worthy of peace, not pain disguised as partnership. Walk away, not with bitterness, but with boldness. Walk away, not to prove a point, but to claim your purpose. And when you do, don't look back. Because power, once reclaimed, should never be handed over again.